Let's take a look at some information and charts on Stellar for BraveNewCoin. So Stellar is a cousin to Ripple. Both have the same founders or co-founders, Jed McCaleb. Jed McCaleb left Ripple and created Stellar. Although I see Stellar as more of a business and banking, distributed ledger technology more as, I don't see Stellar that way. I see Stellar more crypto-centric with the ethos of crypto, even though Stellar and Ripple both have the same issues in that they just created a bunch of coin and are slowly distributing it over time in a potential perpetual ICO fashion. Now, they're a little better than Ripple in that they burned half their supply a few years ago, but the same issues remain, maybe not to a greater or a lesser degree than Ripple. Stellar probably has a little bit more going for it in the user department as far as things people can do with it. It has USDC. They do have cross-border payments and remittances, but it's not at the forefront of what they do, at least from my vantage point. They have a market-making bot, a decentralized exchange that looks just like MetaMask, UniSwap, whatever. Take your pick, which is good. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. So they have a lot of DeFi-related or adjacent things that Ripple does not have, let's just say. They have had some episodes of downtimes over the years. Arguably nothing super major, but this isn't exactly a measure of high decentralization when the network has to be patched or fixed several times in 2 years in order to keep it running. So that's a knock against it relative to other cryptocurrencies, certainly. This is the supply. It was 100 billion. Like I said, they burned half of it. They couldn't give it away fast enough, basically. They've done a series of airdrops over the years. None super recently, but that was part of their way to distribute the coins. The Stellar Development Foundation holds this amount or somewhere near this amount in total, 26 billion, 24 billion in circulation. Previously, they also had a staking component that they got rid of. So they still release, I don't know how exactly, but they do release coins into the circulating supply over time. Asset holders at an all-time high based on their ledger account. I assume this is addresses with Stellar in them. I'm not too sure exactly, but it says a median balance is 2 Stellar. So that's certainly not bearish to see rising asset holders, as they put it. And just like MetaMask and any other DEX, Stellar has a DEX or DEX-like environment where you can trade in a peer-to-peer way. And that has certainly influenced on-chain metrics over the past 10 months because previously, we zoom way out, Stellar kind of had no activity until 2021, late 2020, when this DEX stuff kind of took off and recently hit an all-time high in transactions on chain. Average transaction values declined significantly. So this tells you it's probably microtransaction related. It shifts the averages way down to sub 1,000 per transaction on average, or sub 1,000 on average for transactions on the day. So it's certainly not bearish to see a DEX get used by a chain. Active addresses by CoinMetrics account are also rising slightly. They're not up significantly. If we zoom in a little bit though, this is when they burned all of the Stellar, which is why NVT spiked way down. But if we just focus on active addresses have been rising over the past few months. Not in a big way, but they are rising. NVT rising slightly as well, was basically at an all-time low, zoomed way out. Discounting this here, this was an all-time low for NVT in August. Also not bearish, definitely bullish. It says people are using the chain, right? It's just, it's a different chain than it was before the DEX, now that the DEX is available on the chain. And if you look at MVRV versus price, market cap versus realized cap, for most coins, this will top out at around 2x multiple. For Stellar, it looks like it's topped out at around 0.75 to 1 historically at the highs here. Currently, MVRV is 0.4, and it looks like the lows are anything below 0.1. So it's kind of in the middle of the road as far as upside or downside here. But something to watch if we break down in Q4, watch for some crazy MVRV sub 0.1, massive buy signal based on technicals, and an MVRV exceeding 1 would definitely be a massive sell signal. Looking at Stellar protocol Google Trends worldwide over the past 5 years. Google Trends basically sitting at previous lows. So everything's zeroed out in the Google Trends department. There is no massive searches or interest in Stellar by their measure. Stellar is listed in a few funds, including the Grayscale Stellar Trust, 20 million under management, and the Bitwise 10, just to name two of them. It's also bottom here at 0.51%. So it is listed in the Bitwise 10, even though it isn't a large percentage. People still look at this stuff, especially newer people or legacy people, and they say, okay, maybe I should hold some of this. Bitcoin Cash is in here, so obviously that's a terrible thing for anybody to hold. But people who don't know better look to this or stuff like this and say, I should probably buy some of that. Flipping gears to technicals, this is the 1 year MA in the green and the 5x multiple in the red. Historically, this will ping pong in between these two levels, much like an oscillator. Occasionally, it will get extremely overbought or extremely oversold. And generally, you want to be buying in the green zone, selling in the red zone. Most recently, it hit 0.6 on the multiple. Currently, it's in the buy zone in the green area. Historically, it's taken months for this thing to get out of the buy zone if it's there for a good long while. So if you're bullish or want to be bullish into Q4, you're looking at basically $1 plus $1 to $1.80 as far as a range that you'd probably looking to be selling up there. So it's definitely more of a buy zone here than a sell zone. On the cloud, it's below the cloud, so it's bearish with a bearish TK cross. You want to see this above 35 cents into Q4 to be convinced that this thing is bullish. Otherwise, the expectation here is eventual lower lows. Looking at the 5200, it's crisscrossed a few times over the past couple of years, but a majority of the trend has been bearish, at least mid 2018 to 2020. It had a bullish spurt, reset itself, and then had a big bull move post October 2020, kind of on the back of that DEX news, in my opinion. All of DeFi exploded late 2020, early 2021. So anything related to DeFi in any way benefited from that. So currently it's a bearish cross. Price is sitting kind of at 20 to 25 cents at the support here. If this does not hold, it's likely going sub 15 cents. Ultimately around 10 cents is probably the support. So again, if you're bullish, you want to see this back above the 200 with a bullish 5200 cross, and you want to see it above ultimately 50 cents because then you're convinced that this actually has some strength in the tank. Zooming way out on the Stellar BTC chart, this is the 3-day, the 5200 on the 3-day, yearly pivots, VPVR, RSI. This thing has ranged since 2019 at this level. It did look pretty good for a white coffee and accumulation area leading into 2021. It had a mini breakout that got swiftly smacked down. So currently it still holds a bearish cross on the 3-day, despite attempting a bull move. So if you're a buyer at this point, you're probably waiting for all-time lows or very close to that at around 300 sats, because otherwise you're risking a 50% drawdown from here if you're still bullish. This has been ranging for a long time, so you can't really expect this to just explode until it starts to break the 200-day moving average again, or in this case, the 600-day moving average at around 1,000 sats. So neutral to bearish is about as good as you can hope for. On that chart and against ETH, it's continually lost value since 2019. It's in the volume area. And on the 3-day, it's still far below the 50 even. Potential bull div, potential mean reversion type material here, just like it did 2 times prior in 2020. So also not bullish, probably not bad enough to buy. And people are probably waiting for all-time lows or lower to step in. Lastly, I'll just mention the ETH BTC fund and DeFi portfolio. I trade for TechMe Capital on Enzyme.finance, a non-custodial portfolio management solution where you can send ETH or USDC or just watch what I'm doing. You can see everything, including AUM performance allocations, all the vaults I'm in on Yearn, Compound, and Aave, as well as the trades and the trades tab down below. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.